Hi guys, my name is Daniel Simone and I am from Simone Homes, and today I'm with Jacinta from JLM Conveyancing. Hello Jacinta.
Hi Daniel, how are you?
Good, thank you. Jacinta has actually invited me here today to actually thank you guys for trusting her with your matters in relation to your blocks. So we thought we'd get together today and just have a little bit of a general chat about a few common questions that get asked. And Jacinta, I think the first time we wanted to start with was talking about the sunset clause in the contracts for unregistered land. So why don't we just start with that one and give the guys a bit of a insight into that?
Sure. Sunset clauses are set down to give both parties under a contract an opportunity to rescind out of it and get your money back. Basically, if developments can't be approved by council or they need the time to develop the land before they can actually subdivide it. So they'll often tell you that they expect to be registering it around November. But because things, as an example, but because times get dragged out, things get taken out of control from the developers themselves, where they then allow themselves a condition in that contract to add from the sunset clause another 6 months.
Okay.
To enable them to get ready. One of the fine examples of that is what happened at Spring Farm, where they were delayed for up to 2 years.
Is that still going, that matter now? They've settled?
No, they've all registered now, and it's all very, very good.
So I suppose something like that, 2 years, that's pretty uncommon for that to happen. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is. There's only been two that I've really heard of, and that's been Spring Farm, and there's now an issue at Bingara Gorge.
Okay.
And Bingara Gorge has got issues with a threatened species and also with who's going to do the bridge. So there are just some inherent issues down at Bingara Gorge where it has been extended out.
Yeah.
Generally, if they say they're registering in, for example, June, 9 times out of 10, they're registered by September.
Yeah.
Your sunset clause will probably be December, January or February of the following year.
So generally you do find a lot of people may ask the question as in, they've told me registration is going to be January, why is the sunset clause June or July? Is that, and I think people should understand that it is normal to have a sunset clause in a contract, is that right?
Absolutely. That you will not get an unregistered land contract without a sunset clause in it.
Yeah, perfect.
And also without the availability of the developer being able to extend for a further 6 months. That's
right, because there's always, things that get taken out of control as well too.
Absolutely.
And I think to add from that as well, from a builder's point of view, is you really want to look at your building tenders in regards to what their process is in place if the land does unregister. So definitely be a good idea to see if your building tender does relate to the same sort of sunset clause in your contract of sale for the land, because if your land does get extended out 6 months, as we've got the beautiful birds crowing in the background, if your land does get pushed out 6 months, you want to make sure that your tender actually has that covered. So if it doesn't, then definitely ask your builder to see what the process is in regards to extending the tender or the contract if your land does get pushed out. I think another thing we wanted to talk about as well too was in regards to what you're going to be able to build on that piece of land. Now, obviously you'll be able to open up a bit more light on this, but the 88B is only a draft. So just touch on a little bit about how that could change once the land has been registered.
Okay. The biggest problem we have is when the mother lot, which is what we call the land that is being subdivided.
So the mother lot, just in a bit more layman's terms, would be the big parcel with the individual lots in between. Perfect.
Yeah, the one that's going to get cut up for subdivision.
Yep.
So we only get advice of the zoning certificate for that parcel of land.
Okay. Yep. So the mother lot could contain about 100 individual lots.
Absolutely. Yep. And can also contain 3 or 4 zonings.
Okay. Yep.
So one will be recreational, one will be environmental, one will be housing density, low density, high density type of housing. Now, all we can do is go off what we're told in that zoning certificate, and they generally tell you whether it's going to be a low density or high density. So we look at, okay, that's fine. We shouldn't be in the flood affectation, hopefully. The councils tell us generally we won't be in the 1 in 100, but I won't guarantee you won't be in the probable maximum.
Right.
So they're the types of things that we have to look at. You also have to look at, are you going to be allowed to do dual occupancies?
That's right.
Now, dual occupancies are a situation where that doesn't necessarily mean it can be subdivided. That's a bit, everybody seems to think, oh, well, if I have a dual occupancy, it can subdivide.
So essentially what you may be saying is that maybe you can do a duplex, but it might be Torrens title versus strata title, situations like that.
Exactly. Or it'll just be one title. It won't even be strata or subdivided. It'll be one title. So we look at all of these types of restrictions that are in the 88Bs that are in the blocks of land, because the size of your block of land will determine if you can or cannot do a dual occupancy.
Correct.
It then also tells you whether you can have a single story or a double story.
Yep.
It can also tell you about building guidelines, that you have to build with certain attributes, like you can't have a colour-bond fence, or you can't have colour-bond roof. It's got to be tiled or anything like this. Can't be a cladded home, has to be brick. So a lot of those are in the 88Bs. You can't bring in trucks that are over 3 tonnes tail weight. That's a very common one, especially with the narrower roads that are in some of the subdivisions. So we look at those 88Bs. The only downfall with that type of situation is that those 88Bs can change.
That's right.
And the size of the land can change. Now, there are provisions in your contracts that if it varies by an amount that you would not have bought the property for, or by what they class as 5% damage to it.
That's right.
Sometimes you can get it down to 2.5 if you're lucky. Then that gives the purchaser the right to pull out of it.
Yeah.
For an example, we had a property where it did not state that you could not build a 2-storey home. The clients wanted to build a 2-storey home. They asked the developer. The developer said, yes, you'll be fine. There's not going to be any restriction on that. When it got to council, council decided, yes, they're too narrow. You're going to have too much overshadowing. Sorry, can't have 2-storey homes. You can only put single-storey homes. That needs to go into the Section 88B. It wasn't until we got the registered Section 88B certificate that we had found out that that restriction had changed.
Yeah, interesting, yep.
So our client was then able to get out of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think what you're saying there, it can happen, but would it be fair to say that it's doesn't happen a lot, that these sort of major things happen? But I think it's a good point to actually say that is, it might not be a bad idea to kind of wait till it gets to the final sort of, the final 88B is obviously good to go with. But another thing that what I think is very important to mention too, if you wanted to do something that's a little bit, let's say not normal, but if you wanted to do your duplexes or your house and granny flats, all those types of things that are not necessarily your standard sort of normal home to live in, that it is always a good idea to wait to get that final 88B. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Or go and talk to a town planner who is looking after the development.
Yes.
They can actually give you a bit of a heads up as to where things are heading as well.
Awesome. All right, guys, well, I hope that helped in regards to your unregistered land. So if you have any further questions about your contract, you definitely know who to contact. And if you have any other questions that I can maybe help you with, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, thanks for watching this short video.
Thank you.
See yous.
Bye, guys.